so far, Israel has launched hundreds of ballistic missiles into Iran, striking 35 critical sites during Operation Rising Lion. Now, new reports out today indicate there is damage to the infamous underground nuclear facility in Natanz.
The former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, joins us shortly from Tel Aviv, and Fox team coverage is ready. Mark Meredith will have live reaction from the White House. We start, though, with our senior correspondent, Mike Tobin. He is live in Tel Aviv. Are Iranians fleeing Tehran amid this fighting? We know what's going on there in Israel. What's happening in Iran?
Well, as far as the missile attacks that are coming out of Iran, their size and intensity have decreased dramatically. We've had a couple of missile attacks today. One of them, just about an hour or two ago, could have involved as few as 2 missiles. The IDF says one of them was intercepted. Earlier this morning, there was a missile attack involving some 20 ballistic missiles out of Iran. 4 of those got through. The damage was minimal. It resulted in a bus that caught fire, a structure that caught fire, and several craters that were formed in the ground, but no injuries reported from that. Now, Israel's defense minister has taken to the airways with a warning for Ayatollah Khamenei, saying if he continues to fire missiles at Israel, he could meet the same fate as Saddam Hussein.
I warn the Iranian dictator from continuing to commit war crimes, firing missiles at Israeli citizens. He should remember what happened to the dictator in the country neighboring Iran, who took this path against the state of Israel.
And that is in line with the Truth Social post we've just seen from President Trump, saying we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but is safe there. We're not going to take him out, kill, at least not for now, but we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Now, Israeli fighter jets, meantime, have been busy in the skies over western Iran. Israel claims to have hit dozens of surface-to-surface missiles. The IDF says they also hit air defenses like surface-to-air missiles and radar, backing up Israel's claim of air superiority over Iran. The IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, has issued a new assessment of that strike at the Natanz nuclear enrichment facility, saying that facility took a direct hit from Israeli airstrikes, sustaining significant damage. That new assessment was issued after they reviewed satellite imagery of the Natanz facility. John, back to you.
All right. Mike Tobin with the latest from Tel Aviv. Mike, thank you. Jillian?
All right. Well, President Trump cut his G7 trip short as Israel and Iran broadened their attacks yesterday. He's expected to spend the day at the White House today, meeting with his National Security Council in the Situation Room. Mark Meredith is at the White House for us this afternoon. Hey, Mark.
Jillian, good afternoon to you. The White House has President Trump himself throwing cold water on the idea that the U.S. is going to be brokering a ceasefire between Israel and Iran anytime soon, even though there's growing political pressure on the White House to limit any U.S. military exposure to what's happening in the Middle East. The president cut his trip to Canada short by a day, given the developments, the escalating violence between these two countries. And as you and John were just talking about, he's been quite active on Truth Social. Mike Tobin read one of the posts, but I wanted to read one of the other ones where he also said this, and it was interesting. He said the word we, because we now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran has good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. While Trump has been active on social media, so has Vice President Vance. He issued a lengthy statement online making it clear all options remain on the table. Very quickly, the debate over what U.S. involvement may or may not look like is engulfing Capitol Hill, especially among Democrats. We're seeing 2 very different trains of thought play out.
They have to be held accountable for what they've done. They are the ones that built and created the proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah and put our whole region in this kinds of chaos.
I happen to believe that the U.S. being at war with Iran would be a colossal mistake. There is no national security imperative that suggests that we should.
And it's not just Democrats who are speaking out against the possibility of any U.S. involvement in Iran. We know that today, House Republican of Kentucky was also Thomas Massie, was one of the ones who said he would try to limit the president's ability to use U.S. military against Iran without Congress's say-so. Jillian?
As the president himself has been saying today, he might make a decision about how to engage here any moment. We'll be tracking it all afternoon. Thanks, Mark. John?
You bet.
All right, let's go live to Tel Aviv now, bring in the former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren. Michael, it's good to be with you. I want to start you here. This is the latest from President Trump. A couple of big posts on Truth Social. He said, first of all, we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, in brackets, kill, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. And then a few minutes later, the president followed up with this, said unconditional surrender. Sounds like he's done talking to Iran. He just wants them to lay down their arms. He wants them to agree to end their nuclear program, or it may escalate from here. What are you thinking in this moment?
I think it's extraordinary. We're in a truly historic moment. John, Jillian, always good to be with you. Who would have thought? This is one of the world's most wicked regimes. It's not just that they have tried to destroy the state of Israel again and again for the last 46 years. They are the world's largest state sponsor of terror. They're responsible for thousands of deaths of Americans too around the world. They are the major backers of Hezbollah and Hamas that triggered this horrendous Middle Eastern war for the last year and a half. They supplied the drones and the rockets that kill Ukrainians. I can go on and on. This is a truly wicked, wicked regime. And when the president says total surrender, unconditional surrender, we couldn't agree more. And we hope it's not just about their nuclear program. It's the end of Iran's support for terror. It's the end of Iran's attempt to assassinate American leaders, including President Trump himself. I mean, who lets a regime get away with that? It's not just about their ability to enrich uranium. So it's an extraordinary moment. And we greatly appreciate the president's support for us throughout this crisis. It's providing us with munitions, even with jet fuel. And if the president decides that he, in the United States, wants to intervene directly, we're the last people who are going to say no.
Well, let me ask you this question. Can Israel accomplish its goals of eliminating Iran's nuclear program without U.S. help?
But about eliminating, we certainly degrade it extremely. And if the Iranians do come back to the negotiating table, they're going to negotiate about dismantling the program and not just capping the enrichment. And the great thing is they'll be discussing dismantling nuclear facilities that are already dismantled to a certain extent. And yes, we do not have strategic bombers. We don't have B-52s or B-1s, B-2s. We have these wonderful American-made jets, F-15s, F-16s, and F-35s that have just done an extraordinary job. And the president praised American weaponry today, and we couldn't agree more. But again, we don't have planes that can carry these bunker-busting bombs. They weigh 30,000 pounds that can penetrate an underground facility like the facility at Fordo. We could take our time. We could begin to sort of peel off various layers of that mountain, but that would take a very long time. The United States can do it much more swiftly, cleanly, and effectively.
Well, the issue, though, is Fordo. And if there were to be a ceasefire declared and Fordo was intact, do you have any belief that the Ayatollah would actually agree to dismantle that, or would it be left intact and eventually, he, as he's done so many times in the past, drag this out, at the same time reconstituting and rebuilding his nuclear program so that in a couple or 3 years, you'd be right back here where we are now?
Exactly. That's our feeling, too, that the whole system, the whole architecture of the Iranian nuclear program has to be dismantled and has to be verified, whether it's dismantled through an agreement or dismantled through kinetic measures, as they say euphemistically, by military measures. That is okay, too. That's the goal, though. But I would stress it shouldn't be just about the nuclear program. It has to be what we used to call, sort of the euphemistically, Iran's malign behavior, as if, Iran was sort of wrecking its room in some way. Iran, the world state sponsor, just killed hundreds of Americans in Beirut, as you remember, John, assassinated American leaders, everyone from John Bolton to Mike Tobin, to the president himself. And by the way, they tried to assassinate me when I was in Washington, D.C. They don't care. These people are terrorists, and they should not get anywhere near a nuclear facility.
So, we talk about the head of the snake, and President Trump has said we know where the Ayatollah is. He's safe for now, at least. Apparently, there are reports that the president vetoed the idea that Israel would take him out. Senator John Fetterman was on Fox earlier today and said he thought that was a mistake. Listen here.
I think they should have targeted him, absolutely taken him out. I think the way Israel operates, they just take out the leadership just like they did with Hezbollah. And they've already done that with the Iranian leadership, just took them out even laying in their beds. And they didn't take down the whole building. They actually targeted where they lay in bed.
So what do you think about that, Michael? I mean, you took out the head of the military and the new heads of the military. They were just taken out this morning. You took out Nasrallah. You took out Haniya. You've taken out Hamas leadership time and time again on the ground there in Gaza. Why not just get rid of the Ayatollah? Or are you concerned with what might follow in the power vacuum?
Well, I think it's more that I don't think anybody in the state of Israel would shed a slightest tear if Mr. Khomeini would meet his maker, and I think the maker would be very happy to see him. No, I think what I really thought, is my background is in military history. When the president said unconditional surrender, what does that evoke? It meant when Roosevelt said that about Japan in World War II. And when Japan surrendered, Roosevelt and the Allies said, well, we're going to keep Emperor Hirohito, even though he bears a tremendous amount of responsibility for the attack on Pearl Harbor and the horrors that Japan affected throughout the world during the war. We're going to keep him because we need his legitimacy to legitimize the surrender. Now, that was the first thing that came to mind. Preparing for the day that Iran does agree to total unconditional surrender.
All right. Maybe you do need a prominent leader in order to make it legitimate. Michael, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much. We hope that you and your loved ones stay safe through all of this.
Thank you for your support. Okay, bye.
All right.